welcome you to Beyond Boundaries, a series of virtual sessions initiated by Takshila Educational Society to propagate diverse themes, thoughts, and perspectives. In order to facilitate better understanding of our world and its concerns, we bring articulate speakers from all walks of life on this platform to further ideas that foster learning, self-expression, and ingenuity. In today's session, titled Why Learn in the Great Outdoors, our speaker, Saurabh Saklani, dwells on the art and science of outdoor education. This is the third session of Saturday's webinars, a sub-series of virtual sessions under Beyond Boundaries on career-oriented knowledge and skills. Saurabh Saklani is a former Silicon Valley entrepreneur, author, and leadership expert. He is the co-founder and director of Inme Learning, an outdoor learning organization for children. In addition to implementing a global mentoring program for young entrepreneurs at the Indus Entrepreneurs in California, Saurabh has written a book titled What Teens Need But Can't Quite Say. He shares his perspective on professional effectiveness and fulfillment through an online knowledge forum named Me Plus Others. The speaker would converse for about 30 minutes on the topic of his expertise. You may submit questions to the chat box of our YouTube channel. All questions from the viewers would be answered collectively by the speaker in the last 15 minutes of the session. We now begin. Over to our speaker, Saurabh Saklani.
Thank you, Vanda. Well, here's wishing you all a bright and joyous Saturday morning. Honestly, I truly wish I was interacting with you in the outdoors somewhere, or at the very least at one of Takshila's wonderful campuses. But I will try to make the best use of technology today. Something we always saw as an attractive and daunting roadblock on our way to the wonders of nature till just a few months ago. Well, such is life, and now it is the very medium that I'm using to speak to you all about the power and magic of something like outdoor learning. Quite ironical. So as we all are coping, adjusting, and managing our own emotions these days, I too decided today to inspire myself and perk up for the session. So what I actually did was I packed my rucksack. So I have it right here just to get into the mood. And I thought, that will create some excitement in my life. This time of year, I'm usually basking in some wonderful location in the wilderness with a nice and natural breeze behind my back instead of my kids' room with my struggle to keep the Wi-Fi connectivity on and making sure that the AC is heating me up despite the 40 plus degrees that we're facing here in Gurgaon. So as I get into some of the things I wanted to talk about today, I want you to know that being an experiential educator and also a person in general with a fair bit of common sense, I understand that the prospect of listening to me for the next 20 to 30 minutes talking about the outdoors at a time when none of us can truly access it may not be very appealing. But I've tried to put some thought behind this, and I tried to make it a bit more lively, and I've tried to create a narrative using some images which I feel may create some buzz and excitement today in our little journey together. I hope that in some way, at least, our little interaction today gives us a glimpse into the wonders that await us in the outdoors when we finally beat this COVID challenge. And we will. And carry on wearing your masks and washing your hands, please. So here goes. I'll try to share my screen quickly with you folks and then hope for the best. Good. So I have a feeling I'm on. Since I can't hear too many of you, I'm assuming you can see my screen and we shall take it from here. So learning in the great outdoors. As I was putting my thoughts together for today's conversation, a truly wonderful experience from one of my overnight camping trips with a group of children came to mind. It was soup time. We had all pitched our own tents after a rather tough trek. The campsite was set up nicely. I was trying to bend with my terrible back, something that I've been struggling with for the last few years, and take some stuff out of my rucksack when a group of kids approached me and asked me if it was okay if they built a shelter of their own using what is available around the campsite. Now, the request surprised me a bit. Why would they, after a long, tough trek, wish to build a shelter when we already had nice tents set up for them? And this wasn't even part of a challenge or task that we sometimes throw at them. But in the spirit of adventure, even though the request was unexpected, I agreed. And soon the magic unfolded in front of my eyes. There was some initial confusion, children talking over one another. Some were excitedly starting to pick up twigs and leaves lying around. There was a pause. The kids started getting a bit more engaged, a bit more organized, started planning a little bit better, started listening to one another a little bit more. I particularly remember this one child, and this is not that child, it's a similar photo that I managed to get from my archives. But I do remember this one child during that experience who had been homesick earlier in the day and was generally lethargic and just dull throughout the trek. He suddenly sprung to action and started contributing to the self-created team task in a dramatic fashion. In a matter of no more than 15 to 20 minutes, nearly every child in the group started to work together, and the young campers soon had built a shelter of their own. The task they completed wasn't mandated, it wasn't commanded or demanded by anyone. No one had asked them to do it, but everyone wanted to do it. And therein lay the magic. It was a challenge they gave themselves and a challenge they conquered on their own. Seeing the joy on the faces of the kids gave me goosebumps. And as I sat marveling at what had just unfolded in front of me, I took a sip of my soup, smiled at my ripe mid-40s vintage, and recalled some of my own outdoor experiences as a child back in boarding school in Dehradun many moons ago. Dehradun, a beautiful valley surrounded by awe-inspiring mountains, gave me and my friends many memorable opportunities, though it sometimes didn't seem so back then, to explore the great outdoors as part of the school's adventure-oriented culture. So this photograph is from around 1987. I think this was one of the first few trips we did as a group back in school. So we would plan our expeditions using tight budgets, figure out which mountain to climb, how to travel, where to stay, where to eat, how much to spend on relative luxuries like watching movies, learn how to brave the weather, ignore the winding and often scary hill roads, and somehow garner enough courage to reach our destination. There were moments when our backs hurt beyond measure, our knees were on the verge of collapse, and just when we least expected it, the weather would turn and create more of a challenge, and we would also then have to tackle the rain. So we would now be tired, irritated, and wet. But we still managed to dig deep, to find the resources and resilience to get to the top, pitch our tent, light a fire, cook dinner, and find the energy to crack jokes, mimic our teachers till we fell asleep. And all this with the knowledge that the next day could be even more challenging. Having accomplished all this, we always came back to our school having grown in many different ways. At many reunions since, it is these adventures and challenges that we discuss and celebrate the most. So don't ask me why these old folks are wearing pink t-shirts, but this is a photo from my 25th year school reunion. It was fascinating, yet totally expected that most of our chatter was about the trips and expeditions in the outdoors, where we braved the elements, challenged ourselves. We hardly discussed who got the highest marks in, let's say, class 9 biology. Well, at least most of us didn't. So the happiness, the joy, it's something which is very difficult to quantify, something you need to experience. And I hope that we get to experience some of this in our lives regularly. This photo I particularly enjoy. This is me in front of a giant redwood tree. This was along the route that we take for our Great American Bicycle Ride, which starts from Seattle and goes all the way down till San Francisco, across the Pacific Ocean, through the redwood forest. So quite awe-inspiring. This photo in particular I love just because of the scale. This always reminds me of the insignificant me in front of the vastness of nature. And frankly, a good ego check from time to time has never killed anyone. So something I highly recommend, to do ego checks regularly, and the outdoors sets itself up beautifully for that. Because the great outdoors brings with it a sense of awe and wonderment. It also puts things in perspective in a highly competitive and ego-driven modern lifestyles by showing us that things much bigger, more pleasing, more valuable, and more permanent than us exist now and will continue to exist even when we are gone. As I've experienced time and again with both children and adult learners alike, such humbling lends itself beautifully to thoughtful introspection, vulnerability, and appreciation. After a particularly tough expedition, I recall a team participant once shared with me that he never knew that his desire to succeed at all costs, a quality he was very proud of because that's something you associate with great athletes and other winners in life in the traditional sense. He never knew that this quality was impacting those around him very negatively. His teammates saw him as aggressive, unreasonable, and uncaring. He had never received this feedback ever in his regular life. But the outdoors has a wonderful way of showcasing the consequences of your actions in the here and now. It was a very sobering realization for the young man, but something he felt he needed to change. The power of outdoor learning lies, honestly, in the centering of the learning process around the experience. It is neither the teacher nor the learner that dominates the core of the learning process. This brings with it a sense of great objectivity and freedom to experiment, take well thought out risks, and manage the consequences of one's actions. Outdoor learning lends itself to be hands-on, out of one's comfort zone, intellectually meaningful, and memorable. I don't need to even talk about this too much, but brain scientists for years have been harping on and showing us time and again that when you're slightly out of your comfort zone, you are at peak learning. Think about the time you learned how to swim, ride a bike, or drive. Enough said about this. But this particular quote I recently came across, which I love, which says, "A comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there." And again, all it needs is a reflection in our own life and our own journey to relate to this one. During outdoor learning programs, something I really wanted to highlight was the fact that students learn how to take decisions, make choices, and see the consequences of their choices immediately rather than in the distant future. For example, an outdoor experience can lead to reflection and exploration of some of the following. Who took the back seat in the activity? Who were the leaders? How did you guys make decisions? Did team members listen to one another? Were the quieter members engaged? What could have been done better? Were you happy with your teammates? Were you happy with yourself? Thus, the trek, the rock face, or the rafting experience can become a powerful metaphor for the learning objectives with the potential to reside in our memory banks and tapped when needed in the future. Meaningfully designed outdoor learning experiences rely on both action and guided reflection. They go hand in hand. It is actually the reflection that truly harnesses the potential of the outdoor learning process. Now, 21st century skills, something we've heard of often, and now I've just put a slash and added COVID. This wasn't something we were talking about just a few months back, but here it is, the most dominant theme in all of our lives. Given the total dominance of technology in our lives today, it was natural that people, scientists started looking at skill relevancy of our children in this changed paradigm. The current COVID puzzle is, of course, added to this. Call them 21st century skills or whatever else you wish. But the increasingly volatile, uncertain, and ambiguous world of today does require our children to build a skill set that we perhaps did not need in our carefree play world when we were growing up. To that end, the outdoors beautifully help children build some of the key skills in life, and I would like to highlight just 5 very quickly. First, a sense of self. Children learn more about their strengths and challenges with objective, fact-based data from the shared experience. This helps them build a sense of self, which can then be led with a sense of self-worth and self-confidence. Second, team orientation. Outdoor learning provides fantastic opportunities for embracing reliance on others to succeed. Again, I think a big, big mantra for life. We can't do it alone. You do require this wonderful set of people that are supporting you, cheering you, adding to you in your life. And children build a great sense of appreciation and understanding of others. Third thing I wanted to highlight was managing consequences. Children in the outdoors get immediate feedback on their actions and have wonderful opportunities to review and revise their actions in a low-stake environment as compared to the real world. Fourth, appreciating the larger world. Learning firsthand about the local culture, environment, and people that may be living lives very different from our own is a powerful, powerful way to build a wider sense of the world and its inhabitants. This is a way, it works way deeper than watching things on Netflix or on Nat Geo, since the experience is your own. And finally, and I have to highlight this, grit and leadership behavior. Outdoor experiences may throw up some rather difficult and unexpected challenges. We remember surviving on gur chana served at Hemkund Sahib because we had run out of our budget because we'd seen a movie, but we had to survive. And that was our go-to, sit in a dharamshala. So this provides an amazing training ground for building resilience and exercising leadership at a young age. This is the beauty of outdoor learning. It tends to come home. It is quite amazing that there's a great transference of learning in the outdoors. So it's not that what happens in the outdoors stays there. And in fact, from our own organization's experience working with thousands of children over 2 decades, we have heard innumerable stories of positive change from parents. Suddenly, the child becomes better at managing time, becomes more organized and disciplined, more communicative, starts taking more initiative. Isko kya ho gaya is the typical exclamation of delight that we often hear from parents. And the answer remains the same. Isko outdoors ho gaya. So resilience, independence, responsibility, care, and contribution all come back home and tend to stick through life, given that these are the formative years for a child. Outdoors can be truly, truly transformative for kids. And this is something I just came across, as I was getting ready for our little chat today. #fun, #vacations. You must be wondering what this slide has to do with the outdoors. Well, it's very interesting. There was a very interesting thing that happened in Singapore. They did a study. So in our lives today, if you think about it, the need for environmental consciousness to tackle issues such as climate change is pretty well established. No one really argues about that except for maybe a handful of people. However, much less attention has been paid to the intangible cultural and social values nature brings to us. In order to evaluate the benefits of nature, a team of researchers from the National University of Singapore turned to social media and artificial intelligence. So again, technology is the key here to do with outdoor research and experiments. So the research team analyzed, very interestingly, I just love this approach, over 30,000 photographs across 185 countries on social media with the help of an automated image recognition technology. The idea was, again, like I said, quite simple. The team's analysis of the photographs uploaded on social media revealed that photographs tagged as #fun, #vacations are more likely to contain elements of nature, such as plants, water, and natural landscape, as compared to photographs that were tagged #daily, #routines. This finding, which is consistent across different countries, provides further evidence of what is also called biophilia hypothesis, humans' innate tendency to seek connection with nature, and implies a positive association between nature and fond memories in memorable events such as vacations. The team also found that the amount of nature experiences in a country, and again, fascinating, is linked to the life satisfaction of its residents. Countries which have more elements of nature in photographs, tagged as #fun, as I mentioned, for countries like Costa Rica and Finland, for instance, they also tend to possess higher life satisfaction scores, according to scores reported in, say, the World Happiness Report of 2019, which I glanced through. And that is pretty phenomenal. By the way, I love this photo. These were kids that had picked kafel from our campus in Oroli, and they just could not believe that something so tasty was just a pluck away. and they had a gala time that day. So coming to the happiness. Simply put, being in nature increases happiness. Doesn't take any science to analyze that part. But I also believe that the outdoors deserves an independent standing in the long line of natural health remedies we have, such as yoga, pranayama, and Ayurveda, something I'm really into these days, and having tons of ghee and turmeric. In fact, the outdoors as a natural health remedy is the easiest to implement than the ones I just mentioned, and it doesn't even involve twisting your body in crazy shapes or having ghee like I am these days, by the spoonful 3 times a day. You get your vitamin D, you burn calories and stay fit, you build stamina, you focus better, your eyes are better. In fact, Singapore recently ran a campaign with a very catchy slogan, which goes, keep myopia away, go outdoors and play. So they felt it's great for curing short-sightedness in kids. You are in a better mood when you go for a walk outside after a stressful day. There have even been studies showing improvement in ADHD in the outdoors, and that the children growing up with frequent access to outdoors tend to have stronger immune systems. Again, something so important in our discussion frame these days. But none of this is really a surprise. The very name kindergarten, something most of us have gone through, was coined way back in 1840, Germany, by Friedrich Froebel. He called it kindergarten because he envisioned the classroom as a place where children grow in a natural way. Now I come to something very sad. I'm really, really sad to share this. And I, in a funny way, like this cartoon, but it's also very sad. See, this is called the outdoors, and the kid says, oh, I've seen this level on my video games. What, as we will all agree, deserves to be called a magical, side effect free, healing herb, and what has been at the foundation of most educational systems in the world, now instead has a disorder named after it. Some of you may have heard this, nature deficit disorder, a term coined by Richard Louv to describe the lack of connection between children and the natural world. In his must-read book, I highly recommend that you pick this up if you're interested in this theme. It's called Last Child in the Woods. He brought widespread attention to the alienation of children from the natural world, while also outlining some of the benefits that I've already spoken about, like boosting mental acuity, creativity, reducing obesity and depression, and promoting general health and wellness. So hand on heart, folks, and forget the current COVID times, keep that aside. Most of us are genuinely lagging way behind in terms of giving our kids adequate time and pushing them to be outdoors regularly. I'm not talking about the one-off summer camp or the one-day-a-week football or basketball class. A study in America showed that kids in the current generation are spending half as much time outdoors as the previous one, while childhood obesity has gone up 3 times. It doesn't take much to guess that the pattern may be similar here in India as well. Something very interesting has happened to us and our world since we were kids. As children, most of us were probably unaware, at least I was for sure, that we humans were destroying the natural environment and causing things like global warming. But we knew our cycling routes. I knew the trees in my neighborhood that I could climb. I could even describe the branches that were easy and difficult. I could also talk about how mud felt in my hands when I dug through it. On the other hand, kids today most certainly know about Eartha. God knows how many conversations I have had about electricity conservation with my kids and the Australian bushfires. But they may never have dirtied their hands in that very earth that is talking about Eartha, or built a fire with twigs on a cool winter evening. Just something to think about for all of us, and something that I really felt I wanted to emphasize today for all of us, adults, parents, guardians. So folks, here is my request. The responsibility lies with all of us. These are my kids on one of our camps, running helter-skelter, going crazy, just in the wild, picking up twigs, smelling the earth, doing whatever they want. Once when they were kids, I recall one of them was trying to sing to a flower. One of them, I remember once, was plucking petals off a flower and then trying to put it back, and then wondering why it's not working out. But many wonderful moments that I've. Yeah, but even then, despite that, I often struggle with sending them outdoors. especially during the lockdown, even having them go to the terrace to get some sun was something I had to think about and plan. It just wasn't coming naturally to us. So the responsibility lies with us adults to help close this increasing divide between our young and the natural world. There are no two ways about this. We need to let our children interact more freely and more frequently with the natural world. The current COVID situation makes this even more critical for the physical and mental development. Yes, kids don't have access to the outdoors at the moment, but they need not limit their interaction with the natural world. Just the other day, my lockdown for the past 2 months little children pointed at the pigeons outside the pigeon net on the terrace and said, Papa, we should actually call this the human net, since the pigeons are flying freely while we are stuck indoors. Nature's beauty is a gift that cultivates appreciation and gratitude. And we really must thank nature for that. So grab the attention of your children and use the much clearer skies that we have these days. At least here in Gurgaon, it's unbelievable. We are seeing stars with clarity often. So use the stars to keep the connect with the natural world. Observe the leaves, the summer rain, feel the air, look at the clouds, walk barefoot on the grass, do whatever you can, but keep that nature connect alive. More so today than probably ever before. It is one of the greatest gifts we can give our children. And I promise that you too will have a lot of fun along the way. I do. People that subscribe to this sort of philosophy and lifestyle do, and I can vouch for it firsthand. Finally, I will share the simplest and most powerful tip in the whole wide world on how to start exploring the outdoors. And this was given to me by my uncle when I was a little kid. And all he said was, all it takes to explore the outdoors is to open the door and step out. So thank you so much. I would like to end by giving you a little glimpse into what awaits us all once we defeat COVID, which we will for certain. So just hang on. I'm going to try and play a video. And as the slide shows, all of this isn't going anywhere. We'll come and go. All of this, the wonders of nature await us. And now I'm going to just play a little video for you guys.
Anyone in here? Guys, get up!
Well, that's all from me. Thank you so much for being here today. And I wish you great joys in the outdoors when things finally normalize for all of us. So till then, like I said, keep wearing your masks, keep washing your hands, and do stay safe. Namaskar. Oh, good. So we're getting a lot of questions. I'm assuming, let me start answering them. Shraddha, is that the way to go now? Okay, good. So we've got tons of questions, folks. I'll try to pick some of these. So bear with me if I miss yours. Okay, so this is really nice because I'm very close to my heart. So someone's asking, if I get terribly homesick, what best would the camp people do for me? Well, the camp people will make you feel less homesick. We are there, it becomes like a family in the outdoors. So we are there for you with all your emotional needs. So even if you want to have a quick cry, we are there for you. We have a shoulder always available for that, but hopefully you won't cry for the entire duration of the camp. Things get really exciting once you get busy with the activities. So yes, we will take very good care of all our homesick campers. Now, this is a fabulous question. Is there a way to integrate core subjects like science, language, and social science with outdoor camps? This is something we have done in the past. I don't think we do enough of because of the complexity in terms of going back and forth with the school and linking up with the academic curricula. But very, very, very naturally, you can teach tons of subjects out in the outdoors. Right from even math, using the height of trees, the shadow. There are tons of concepts in math you can explore. Exploration of the soil. Some of these things come very naturally in the outdoors. But something very fascinating that I experienced once in one such program that I was running was the fact that we use the trick of getting kids engaged in designing their own activity, which they felt might highlight some concepts that they were struggling with. So even something like a little trek in the wild, while talking about a poem like Hum Panchi Unmukt Gagan Ke, some kids were struggling with Hindi. They felt just being in that natural environment, that poem suddenly started making more sense, and they became much more open to even trying to understand the complex Hindi, words that were embedded in the poem. So absolutely, that is something that can be done wonderfully, and there are tons of providers that actually do that very well. Okay, now this is a toughie. What changes would we be seeing in outstation camps in light of the COVID pandemic? I just showed you. Here's my rucksack. I'm sitting here in May. This is a time when we have thousands of kids on camps across the country. Even our American bicycle ride is something we would be planning for right now. So we're all really, really struggling with this at the moment. But tons will change. The social distancing norms will definitely impact, let's say, group sizes. The travel protocols will have to become much more stringent to incorporate the excessive, or rather the much needed sanitation levels that we now need to follow, disinfection. Also not, going for these trips if you have the slightest of fever. That wasn't something we really thought of earlier. There were kids that would come with a slight headache, because the parents we knew from experience that would pass very quickly. But now we can't take that risk. So a lot of those parameters will have to be incorporated. So yeah, very, very tough. It's a really difficult time for all of us in the adventure tourism and education, outdoor education space. And we're all trying to make some sense of it. In our organization, we've also tried to create an online program, which is actually going to start from June 2nd. And the idea is to use the technology, but yet create hands-on experiences for kids that are stuck at home, provide some level of socialization where you get to interact with peers, build some friendships, and also create something at the end, something visible that you learn and create. So that is something that we've been working on. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of innovation in the industry, but yes, tough times for things like outstation camps right now. Okay, so someone asked me that, loved what you said about managing money, time, space, taking initiative. Is there anything I as a parent can do to keep this approach continued apart from taking trips, of course? Absolutely. You don't always have to go on a trip to incorporate anything that I shared. Things like, even coming up with some norms in the house that everyone adheres to, which could incorporate some of these elements. give some added responsibility. There is something very interesting that we're going to do in our online programs. We call it the core chore. So what's going to happen is during the duration of the camp, kids are going to volunteer and take full accountability and responsibility for some core chore in their house. It could be something like walking the dog, watering the plants, but the kid has to own that responsibility for the duration of camp. And of course, if I was a parent, I would also hope they continue doing that even beyond the duration of the online camp. What is the ideal range for sending children to camps? As a parent, how do I decide if my kid is ready for camping without us? Well, over the years, the age group of 9 to 17 is what we work with. So 9, we have seen, is the sweet spot where the kid is able to understand instructions, manage homesickness, manage themselves with guidance and support. They don't have to come, fully prepped. In fact, that's the idea of the camp, to make them more confident and independent. So 9, grade 4 is what we have seen is typically a very good age when you can consider sending a child outdoors without you. And of course, with an organized and safe outfit and not just any, fly-by-night operator. So just be very, very careful of that. Let me see if I have something else that we can look at here. Would I be expected to participate in all group activities during a camp, even when I may not want to go? It's for my own good, and then tell me, what good is that exactly? Please share. So interesting. Well, one principle that we tend to follow on our programs is what we call challenge by choice. We create the right environment for you. We try to motivate you. We try to do everything in our power that you get to enjoy the wonders of nature. Your parents have sent you to the outdoors. But despite that, if you really don't want to do something, well, we aren't going to push you, beyond a certain point. We'll encourage you, but we won't physically, push you to do that rock climbing. But it's rare. And you'll be surprised yourself. The environment, your own desire, the excitement, the passion, sometimes support from your team members, encouragement from your instructors. All these are fabulous tools that we use to actually get you to do the activities. And in terms of how many activities you have to do, all of this depends on the program. It could be a first-timer program where you are given a taste of various activities. So you do a bit of rock climbing, you do a bit of wilderness craft, you do a bit of backpacking, you do a bit of ropes course, just to give you a flavor. But then there can be more specialized programs where all you're doing is cycling for 21 days, like I said, from Seattle to San Francisco, or going scuba diving and getting certified. So the range is pretty limitless in that. Last question, any books you recommend? Well, I talked about The Last Child in the Woods by Richard Louv. I think that's a very nice and easy reading to get you started. Otherwise, Knowles has fabulous material that you can read. If you really want to get into the genesis of outdoor learning, you can read people like Kurt Hahn, Kurt Lewin. So a lot of these wonderful thinkers, I would also recommend that you explore. Well, that does it for the session today. It was an absolute pleasure, and I hope that given the limitations of our lives today, I was able to give you some semblance of the outdoors and at least theoretically make you realize that there are wonders awaiting all of us outside. Thank you very much and have a super weekend. Namaskar.